So, before we get into it, congratulations not just on season 2, but a season 3 renewal, which was so awesome to hear. What has it meant for you guys to both be part of such a beautifully relatable, charming series?
Well, it's such a joy of a job. It's, from the off, from when I very first read series 1, I was sat in a cafe and I just flicked through page after page after page, and I found it hilarious at one minute and I was crying the next, and I found that was a pattern that kind of followed through, and I knew I had to be part of this show. I really related to the character of Nikki. I really enjoyed spending time with Nikki and Jason and their dynamic, and then to get to do it with series 1 and see what we'd made come out, and the joy and the heart of that show was really special. Then to get to do it again for series 2, what a joy. It's such a brilliant show, and also such a brilliant show to shine light on a subject matter that I think is not necessarily represented enough, and great to give a voice to that in some way.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do with this show. It felt like what I've been waiting for, because it feels like the sort of show that I'd like to watch. It's got that sort of perfect balance of comedy and pathos, and I get to hang out with Esther all day, which is a great pleasure. We really get on. She's my favorite person I've ever done acting with.
I'm gonna get him to write that down.
Yeah, I love the chemistry between you two. Like, it's so natural, and your characters, the way you guys are together, it really elevates the show's appeal. And so, and then add in obviously Imelda Staunton, and she's it's award-worthy perfection for the show. So, did you all know each other before going into the show?
No. Esther and I were asked to audition together in a chemistry test to prove to a group of people that we had chemistry, which is always a bit daunting, a bit strange, because it's it could potentially not be there, but it's like alchemy. It's like it either exists or it doesn't, and thankfully it did, which makes it all very easy. I'd like to say it's difficult, but it isn't. It's easy. The acting in this show is really, really easy, because the writing's lovely, Esther's so good, and it's a really lovely thing to do.
Yeah, and I know, Esther, you're in the Harry Potter universe with Imelda. So, Rafe, does that kind of hurt I know that you're a big Harry Potter fan. So, was that hard for you to those two have a bond and you're kind of left out, or were you left out?
I wonder where my reputation of being a Harry Potter fan's come from, because that's not true. But
that's true. You talk about it all the time.
No, I don't talk about it all the time.
Strange how much you do talk about it.
No, but my dad was in Harry Potter, but he played Peter Pettigrew, so I suppose I'm sort of linked in a way. But yeah, look, I'm not a fan of Harry Potter. I've just never given it a second thought.
Right. Well, that's fine. I mean, you're in the Jurassic World universe, so that still works out. It's great.
Yeah. I'm in some universe. I exist in some universe, someplace.
So, season 2 is so good. What can you tell fans without spoiling anything?
Yeah, so season 2, we find Nikki and Jason at the point they've just been approved by panel at the end of series 1. And now we find them on a journey where they're trying to be matched with a child. And it's not as easy as I think you'd think. They're really definitely not out of the woods yet. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of competition with other parents. And it feels like the stakes are much higher now, because it does involve, children, and they meet a child who essentially they feel is their child. So the potential for heartbreak is huge, and the potential for rejection is huge, because essentially the adoption process isn't about the parents, it's about the kids. It's about matching the kids to the right people. So just because you've met the child that you think is yours doesn't necessarily mean they are for you. And so we journey through them, going through that process, and there's lots of ups and downs. There's lots of moment of comedy within that, because they want it so badly, and lots of real poignant moments as well.
Mm-hmm. And the show balances humor so eloquently with that sensitive subject matter. So what do you think makes it more appealing to go on a funny note as opposed to just full-on drama?
I think that it's more representative of life. my experience of life, anyhow, in my own private life, whenever anything gets difficult, my way of coping is by using comedy. It's you know, it's like it's a way of releasing pressure when situations get difficult. And you know, there's been many times when someone's made a joke at a funeral and you've laughed. It's like a pressure valve release. And also, I think it's maybe for people going through it, is more palatable to watch. It's like if you're feeling the misery of it in real life, the last thing you want to see is the misery of it on television. Like, I think it's more inclusive to go, guys, we're in this together. This is a thing. It's okay to laugh. It's terrible. It's hard, but it doesn't define you. There's, it's, I think it's smart, more difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's more difficult to do and it takes great skill in the writing. But when it works, it's my favorite thing to watch.
Mm-hmm. And have there been moments when you guys are reading the script back that the moments stun you when you read them back about your character's growth and development, or do you get emotional over reading anything?
Yeah, I mean, there are moments within this series, particularly when there's a moment in episode 2 where Nikki sets eyes on this particular child, and it's a really profound moment where not much is communicated, but so much is communicated within the silence, and even in the writing of that in the script, I was crying. I mean, I'm often crying, but you can't help but be moved by this, particularly because we know these characters so much from series 1 that you know how much it means to them. And you really want them to do well, and because you're really rooting for them. If something doesn't quite work out in the way that they'd hoped, I think that is very moving. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? You guys are so awesome, and the show is so amazing. I've been such a big fan of both of yours for years. And Rafe, I've loved you in Pete versus Life. So for you to be in a show that is so awesome, and you guys are so hilarious. Thank you again for bringing so much joy to the world when we really needed it last year.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
It's so
also,
great.
Pete versus Life. That's a deep cut. Like, yeah. That's a real deep cut. Like, well done. Thank you. Not many people know about that show. So cool.
I'm obsessed with that show. I've binged it like 20 times during quarantine, so it brought a lot of joy.
I'm so pleased. Well, thank you, Tania. Thank you very much.
So season 2 of Trying will premiere globally on May 21st, only on Apple TV+. For more with Esther, Rafe, and all your Apple TV+ news, please keep it locked to popculture.com.